Yo, how are you doing, folks? Welcome to episode 85 of the Simpa Life Podcast. It's a wonderful little time of year at the minute. We're slowly creeping into summer. In fact, actually, by the time most of you are watching this, we will astrologically and I was going to say calendarily. That's a word that is not a word. That is the single most butchered bit of English literature I've ever stated thus far in my career. But you know what I'm trying to say here is basically we are moving towards the start of summer, the hottest part of the year. And actually, depending on where you are in this country, it is probably too hot for you right now. If you're a HPS grower, I feel very sorry for you. Do check out your local hydro shop and look into some LEDs because it's only going to get hotter, folks. This situation is only going to get worse. So yeah, diversify the way that you're growing. Make sure that your self-sufficiency is not going to result in something combusting, something setting on fire. Accidents do happen, and yeah, it's warm out there, folks. So do stay safe, stay sensible, and check out some alternatives for wherever you're growing. Right, this week's guest is kindly someone that has jumped into the hot seat because I had a last-minute cancellation for a guest that I'm not going to tell you who it was because they might be back in a little bit. We don't know yet. We'll figure that one out as we go. But yeah, today's guest is a small business owner, 420 artist, a kind of content creator from Wales. She is Buddy Mary.
I was wondering if you were going to try and do a Welsh accent.
All right, it'll creep out with me the whole time throughout this whole recording.
Oh, no.
How are you doing, buddy?
I'm good, thanks. But I had a nice hot bath, so I was ready for you, nice and clean.
Nice one. Yeah, that's on there. That's the second page of the rider for all guests. Must be clean. I'm glad you read the fine print. Yeah, thank you again for jumping into the hot seat at such short notice. As I say, I'm not going to reveal who the person was because it was kind of a last minute delay with themselves. And yeah, I'm kind of quite hopeful and fingers crossed, optimistic that we'll get them back in the future. So yeah, speedy recovery to you know who you are out there. So yeah, obviously you can tell I'm very caffeinated this morning. I don't know why I've already had 3 cups of coffee in 3 hours. Nice.
I think I'm on number 2, so I'll catch up with you now.
A very chunky looking coffee. What you got in there?
Oh, I got hot chocolate powder in it. It's gross, but
What's it like a homemade mocha?
Yeah.
One of my mates absolutely
lumpy mocha. This one. It's basically I really wanted hot chocolate last night. I was craving it real bad, and I couldn't be fucked to clean out my mug, and then it makes it all like chocolate in that.
I like it. Yeah.
Nice.
Save the planet, reduce the water. Water consumption. Yeah, I like
it's tasty. Why not? Chocolate and coffee, isn't it?
No, I must admit, it was one of my mates who I ended up staying with for a while. He, sometimes has mocha in the morning with the little chocolate milks, and he adds that with another milk and frosts it all together, and it's like, ooh, okay.
I saw on someone's post that they've mixed like Biscoff into the milk, and then put espresso onto it. It's like Biscoffy, creamy hot milk with the coffee. It just looked incredible. I need to try that one at some point.
Wow. Yeah, that biscotti stuff, the biscuits. I mean, they made it into a paste for like toasts and things like that, man. And that stuff, geez, that's dangerous. That's kind of, you put a bit on your toast, and you have your toast, and you go, oh, stick a teaspoon in, or stick your fingers in. If it's on
brown bread as well, if it's on the brown bread, it just makes it like extra. It's just so much nicer on like whole grain, and it's got the seeds and stuff in it as well. You got all that texture with it's just like you're eating a giant Biscoff biscuit. It's so delicious.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And actually, a lot of people make some really good Biscoff edibles that I've seen out there, actually. And then you just put like half a biscuit stuck in the top. Like the
I got too excited when it first came out, and now I can't do it. It was like 10 years ago. I became obsessed. I ate jars and jars of it, and I see it, and I'm like, I can't. Yeah. It's really thick as well. It's like doesn't make sense that it's hard work to eat. Problem.
It's like peanut butter, yeah. You got
to It's hard work. It's a mouth workout.
I suppose it really needs to be because of the calorie content of it. You know, I mean, you need to work it off. If it was like bloody celery, there'd be a problem. You know what I mean? Oh, it's got me hungry now.
Celery or Biscoff?
Just want a bit of everything now. So yeah,
Celery in the
really much. Okay.
I reckon that'd be quite nice.
I mean, they do put celery. I was just thinking they do put celery in what is effectively your alcohol namesake of a Bloody Mary.
I do love that cocktail. It's a good cocktail.
Is that anything to do with your chosen nomic?
I don't know. Do you know? I was stones tidying up my room, and I was Cannabis at the time. I wasn't very happy with it because it was too aggressive for what I wanted. It wasn't right at all. And then, but I was just pottering around my room, and it just popped into my head. I was like, Bloody Mary, fuck, get that on the page quick before someone else thinks of it. It's only a matter of time before it pops into somebody else's head. So yeah, it was just a stoned Eureka moment.
Sorry, I'm trying to figure out what word I was trying to pull on my ass before.
On your what?
What word I was trying to pull on my ass before? I was trying to say your chosen, is it moniker? I want to say moniker, and I can't even get the word out into Google to make me figure out if I'm correct. Basically, the word I think is an archaic term for name, is what I was trying to state there. But no, that's thank you for explaining the root of it. It's always, you see so many people with quite clever and pun-based names for their social media accounts, and it's always nice to kind of find out, where people's stories came from, what it was that kind of inspired them.
I wish there was a cool story, but it was purely just, it popped into my head. It was one of those things where I was like, brilliant. I don't even think I was thinking about anything beforehand. It was, literally like a click. Quick, move on that idea now. Yeah. It's like, I either take forever to think of something. It takes, I get there and I really it's just something like oh my God, you got to do that. Like the kind of craft fair thing. That was a completely winged thing. So yeah, it's one or the other with me.
Hey, pretty much quite similar. When me and my mate were brainstorming names for this whole project and came up with the Simpa Life, I was like, that is it. That's the one. And it was immediately like, yeah, we need to like grab all the social media accounts, grab all the names, make sure that isn't anything else, Yeah. No, it's nice. I mean, it's something that you are strictly trying to hold on to, because you have different like 1, 2, and 3 of the accounts on Instagram, so I can't keep up with get a message from this one, a message from that one. I'm sending a message back over there.
It's unbelievable. Like, I'm getting penalised because I'm painting cannabis leaves. What's wrong with you? Am I really that much of a public menace? Do you know they banned Bloody Mary art at one point? On one hand, I was like, fuck yeah, I'm on their radar that much. And then at the same time, I'm like, are you real? Are you going to get paper cuts from me? I'm not dangerous. Like, fucking artwork, people. You see pictures of poppies, you see pictures of knives and guns, they're all so dangerous, but a painted cannabis leaf. It things like this really, well, I've just listened to your other podcasts. You're saying Body Shop have got floor-to-ceiling pictures of cannabis leaves in their windows, but yet we're using the same terminology, we're using the same imagery, and we're getting penalised, shadow banned, and our accounts deleted. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. It's not fair. It becomes it's a class thing, and we know really.
Entirely. I mean, if there's any comfort out there, I think Body Shop did get in trouble for their marketing campaign, or at least the executives decided to kind of.
Done it. Holland and Barrett have done it as well. Both windows, cannabis. So it's not just one. It's Tresemme. I'm literally starting a bath now, and no, that was aloe vera. But you can get. They've got the picture on the fucking box. Are we allowed to swear? We're allowed to swear. I mean, yeah, of course we are. They got a picture on the fucking bottle. Like, so it's not. It's just bullshit. Bullshit.
Yeah, well, I suppose the issue there as well is misrepresentation, because a lot of these brands are using indica type leaves to denote what they would then themselves claim to be the colloquial term hemp, which would then in the Western world express as much stringier, thinner kind of leafed taxonomy compared to these fat, beautiful, well-connected indica leaves.
What I've learned recently, listening, because my partner's living soil and he's a worm farmer and whatnot. What I've learned recently is indica and sativa was just Indica means it was a wild plant, and sativa means we planted it by seed. It was we purposely put it in there, but say it's grown up naturally. That's indica, and that's all it means. It's nothing to do with indica or it's none of that.
Sativa means something like planted, whereas the indica means of India. So basically, just meant if the indica types were basically from the Indian Peninsula, from the Asian Peninsula rather, and from India into what became sort of China, Mongolia, the Hindu mountain range.
But then you look at it, the word indica is used all the way through all in all plant names, all of the biology. And it's not strictly a cannabis word. So when you're looking at it that sense, it means of the land or of the earth, I believe.
It's basically wilded, so it's not human contact. So basically, so of India is basically when the hell was the book? The International Botanical, not a dictionary, like encyclopedia sort of thing, was put together by that Carl Linnaeus.
Now, when you see the classic botanical illustrations, it's basically from the book, isn't it? Also sources from there, stems from there.
So then they basically, they then discovered and started to pull all of the cannabis types together. So prior to that, there were half a dozen different types, there were different subspecies of the Cannabis family. And then basically Carl and his team, they pulled all the shit together and they went, all right, this is one overarching family of this Cannabis sativa L. And then in that, they broke it down to indica, ruderalis, and sativa. And they basically went, the ruderalis was the truly wild cousin. That was some hybrid in between your indica and your sativa. And your sativa were basically the genetics that were engineered or interfered with by man. So that we then went, that one looks really good for fiber, keep breeding that and inbreeding it till it's just fibrous. That really good for seed production. We're going to keep inbreeding that until it's really good for seed. Do you know what I mean? And then so we took these different cultivars and then through selective breeding, removing them and taking them to different microclimates around the world. These plants, because cannabis is the single most adaptive piece of flora that I think we have, frankly, in the world, that it then started to express itself differently. So different cannabinoid profiles were expressed, different amounts of ratios of the cellulose in the plant to then the fiber of the plant, the shapes of it, the size of them, the depth of the roots. All of this would be adaptive to the amount of water, the amount of UV, the amount of, exposure to other things, what are the companion species are they growing with? All of these different factors then over generations altered what was all just cannabis into the expressing in different ways. But when we can see this through, if you then hybridize and take certain aspects of these now, in a few generations, you can get back to air quotes cannabis. They're starting to find all sorts of weird things like Humboldt's freak show, flat stalked, broken leaves, doesn't look like a cannabis plant, but it's cannabis.
Excuse me. There's an account that I was following. I think it's still on this account, but I keep getting deleted. So I'm trying to find those cool accounts again. And it's pure mutants. It's all mutant plants. It's so freaking cool. It's such a beautiful plant. It really is magical. Someone my partner follows, one of theirs is mutated, and it was like the seed, the corner of the leaf it got caught, so it just started growing in this spiral, and it looks like a Catherine wheel embodied in a leaf. I've screenshot it as soon as I saw it. I was like, that's screaming to be painted. So I've got it saved somewhere, so you can look forward to seeing that at some point in the future. But it's absolutely gorgeous. She did just looking at it, she makes me weep. She's so beautiful.
It's such an expressive plant, and again, this is for all. There's a couple of companies in the world saying that they have true F1s and all of this shit. Cannabis by her nature does not want to be stable. As I've said, that even in the microclimate of, say, a giant greenhouse, even having the offset of a few degrees, of having a different, height, do you know what I mean? Of having different exposure to the lights, of different pressure in the gases that are in the air, all of these things can then trigger that plant to express in slightly different ways. So there is no real monocropping of cannabis without using CRISPR technology, or without genetically modifying it, or without doing something that we as cannabis consumers, we as the cannabis culture and community collectively, globally, do not want to fucking happen. We want to explore the diversity of this plant, not imprison her and say that you make it express in 5-6 different types.
I don't think she'd let us. So I think she's got a strong enough spirit that no matter what we try and do to her, she can be like, you can try this for a bit, but at some point I'm still going to do this instead.
I think that's what you see with mass hermaphrodization, even through testing. So there are people that do genetic testing that then still will go, yeah, this is a pure female, will then still get hermaphrodization later on down the line. Obviously, if things like
hold my boob. I'm just going to turn this into a wanger.
So it's like you get light exposure, you get triggers and environmental issues, but there's still, I mean, I've spoken this before with a few geneticists on the platform, and I basically used the quite pseudoscientific concept of like awareness. The plant then goes, oh, this is quite a nice environment, this. All right, let's reproduce. Yeah. So it just turns it on itself in the same way that there are certain aquatic creatures that also have a similar trigger, that they basically will assess the sex of the population and then switch to the other sex to make sure that there is a viable population. I mean, you could probably.
It's the spirit of the cannabis. She's like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to give myself a swang.
And I think the other side. Yeah, I think the other side of it as well. Then the people that are then banking on cannabis for the wrong side of it. She then goes, you know what, screw you guys. You guys are not good. You don't deserve me. You know, week 5, all of a sudden, I'm just gonna seed up.
Have some of this. Make some clothes out of me.
I mean, that's just it. If it was an integrated system, every part of cannabis at every point would be useful. Whereas if you're growing cannabis purely for the bud and you then have it seeded, to you that's a wasted crop. Do you know what I mean? Most people still run it through BHO or something else, or they'll do some sort of run through it to get
you can get so much out of it still.
Of course, but the issue is that people in both the the unlawful and the lawful market will look at it as going, I've grown it specifically for this one purpose. And when if you're in the lawful market, you're not allowed. If you think growing it for the sell of flower heads, you then couldn't then suddenly turn around and go, I'm going to sell it for extract. Do you know what I mean? It will have had to go through different processes. It has to be licensed and regulated in a different way. It then has to go to a different wholesaler to then be sold to a different market. So it's shitty. They're not really understanding how to utilize all of this wonderful plant of ours. I often complain about how the licensing in America means you have to get rid of the sticks and stem. You have to mulch it. You have to bin it. You're not allowed to then extract from it. You're not allowed to then turn it into fibers and other material or sell it onto a third market. Because your license isn't for it.
We know we can make electricity from stuff like that. Can we make the batteries from that as well?
You can make
articles.
No, you can make graphene. I mean, this is a cannabis paper. So this is a cannabis paper injected with a cannabis graphene ink. Obviously, this has seen it's better days now, folks. There's been many events with me and gone around. But basically, the concept is that then on a material that then the graphene in this liquid form is then injected into the paper and it fills the space of it. That then when this is stacked and compressed together, it creates a supercapacitor. And so then the space in between the molecules that stores the energy is better on concept and model than lithium cell. So then these metal-based batteries, these mineral-based batteries that we're using, that we're requiring children to go down holes in the other side of the world to get the materials to do so, can be replaced with plants effectively. You know what I mean? Obviously, there is some issues with scalability, but they're working on this through research now in a few pockets.
We can use, if we were to legalize the biomass, the gasification of the biomass would be able to be used to make electricity as well. So we'd be able to make our energy, we'd be able to store energy, energy prices out of it.
Store it. Yeah, basically, I've pitched the idea of this stuff, this cancrete. If you infuse, basically, you can make, with cannabis graphene, you can make like a rebar. So you could make a rebar with the cancrete to make then a building. That building, then you can use the graphene in the walls as conductive space to store energy. You could then attach thermal, because of the thermal properties of the cancrete. You could basically, theoretically, you could live in a battery that is also thermal regulating, that's flame resistant, pest resistant, mold resistant, water resistant, reduces carbon over its lifetime, and stores energy, and puts that you can then like integrate solar panels into that, integrate turbines into it.
The more my mind blows, you can't, like, with every piece of information I learn about this plant, I fall more and more in love with it, and I get more and more angry about why it's kept from us. I'm so in love with it.
There are people doing these projects, not obviously fully as integrated as that, but there are people now 3D printing houses. You know, they use these giant 3D print machines that they go onto site and they print them. I think China holds the current record. They've got it under 24 hours to print a house now, I think. But they weren't using plant-based polymers to the best of my knowledge. But basically with sort of these materials is they're basically trying to design, or certain companies are trying to design machinery where one machine goes onto a site and it builds a house and it builds a house and it builds a house. And then the goal is if you can give it organic material to do that, so you don't have to fill it with concrete or plastics or even wood or brick or the old school building materials. We could give it polymers. We could give it theoretically even things like mycelium with bamboo. All sorts of these materials. And then obviously once you then use the polymers that are made from these plant materials, you can then fuse them together to create like carbon fiber effectively that you see in like race cars and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But you see then you've got the concrete, like the carbon fiber style material, which is moldable. You've then got, like I said, the graphene for the supercapacitors, but also graphene is its strength when it's built up. I think is it 200 times stronger than steel, 100 times stronger than steel, 200 times more conductive than copper. So it's basically the plant itself. That's unbelievable what just that could do. If we could then actually integrate that with the technologies of solar panel. I mean, solar panel now we've got it at the point of the adapted models that fit it in glass in windows.
Will there be stuff? Will there be like seminars and stuff like this about this in Product Earth?
I don't know if they are doing stuff. That's a very good point.
I didn't know about the whole living in a battery thing and these machines. It's really it's so interesting.
All it is it's a concept I wrote for Weed World a couple of years ago, and it was basically I wrote an idea of a few different bits of technology, and it was just conceptual, entirely just conceptual. The other one is a self-sustained desalinization plant. So obviously at the minute, water is going to be more valuable than data, gas, oil, anything in the world, because if you don't have water, you're dead, basically. So desalinization is going to be a really important technology. So we've discovered that if you then build these graphene pipes out of cannabis, right? When you run salt water over graphene, it generates an electrical current. So basically, if you then run the salt water through the pipes, you generate energy to power a machine that then can desalinate. You need an incredible amount of energy under the current technology to desalinate, to take salt from that water to turn it into fresh water. Obviously, the vast majority of water on the planet is salt water because it all goes back to the water salt table, the water table, which is salt water. Sorry, my words are terrible this morning. But yeah, if you then build one of these machines, and again, you attach it with things like solar panels with wave technology. Do you know what I mean? With hinges between generators, and basically wave technology is always going to happen. And so it's just creating kinetic energy into then actual energy. And it's all about then storage. We have graphene, again, wonderful storage solution. So you could build a thing that stores its own energy within it, that the water then running over the pipes to then create that fresh water generates then energy. Do you know what I mean? It's all conceptual entirely, as I've stated, but it's, as far as I can see, there's no reason why you wouldn't seek to do something like that other than lack of profitability, other than it would affect the investments of BlackRock and Vanguard and the other people that rule this world.
Yeah. That's pretty mind-boggling.
It's crazy. It's like I said, the saltwater thing, the saltwater over graphene is a really curious natural response. There's a few things we're starting to understand of how you put simple elements together and you get reactions that we're like, how have we got this far into our knowledge base and not really understood this? How have we evolved this far as a culture, as a species? And there's some really basic things that we're missing. I mean, if you look at Nikola Tesla and you look at what he discovered with alternating currents, he was able to send electricity in the fucking 1800s across the Atlantic without wires, without cables. And yet we're still trying to figure this shit out nowadays of how to put all this together. You know what I mean? It's like we've missed the point here. Like this 100 years of us criminalizing cannabis and this 100 years of us advancing our technology, they're not mutually exclusive. Like this, one has been harmed with the absence of the other. And I think we're starting to be aware of that now, because you then look at the proliferation of microplastics. Like I said, if we'd have looked at plant-based polymers, which is what they were looking at back in the day in the 30s with Henry Ford and that, remember the first body for the T Ford motor car when they moved from steel was a composite of soy, cannabis, and flax. And it was
no way.
Yeah, so there's a famous image of him hitting it with a pickaxe handle and him literally like that, just bashing the back end of it, and it does nothing. And it was,
Wow.
I'm probably getting the numbers wrong here, but I think it was something like 1,200 or 2,000 pounds, using American weights, lighter as a body between the first steel construction and this composite body one. And basically his concept, and again, he was working with that Rudolf Diesel out in Europe, and the original diesel engines, these combustion engines, were going to run on these plant biofuels. So they were looking at sunflower, they were looking at cannabis and flax. They were the main seed oils and bioethanols that they were looking at to run on these machines. Basically, they wanted to put that engine in these plant cars and use nature to make these machines.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas then the criminalization of nature, you know, people in the copper barons at the time, the people involved in timber and steel and energy, and especially oil and your boils at DuPont, etc., they put all of their money into fighting against cannabis, against what was then, you know, they knew the power of hemp at the time. They just really gearing up around the Hemp for Victory campaign around the Second World War. You know, they were using it for gunpowder, they were using it for vestments, they were using it for, you know, for food source, they were using it for all sorts.
Mm-hmm. Well, when Henry VIII was getting divorced, he was and they separated from the Roman Church. He was broke, so he turned to hemp and to cannabis to make his money.
Well,
I can't remember where I heard. I'm sure it might have been from someone was on a megaphone at one of the protests, and I was listening to that, and it blew my freaking mind.
That will be Trev Coleman, because he loves his history, as he likes to say, that the separation of Henry VIII and the creation of the Church of England was the Brexit of its day. Yeah, it's a bit obviously contentious, I suppose. The common history that we are taught is that Henry wanted to divorce his first wife and have another wife, so therefore he decided to take on the Pope. Whereas if you look at kind of some alternative narratives within history, basically Henry being quite a gluttonous individual, quite a like me, I want shit, you know, dominance and all the rest of it. Kind of, why the hell are we paying, you know, this chunk of cash towards the Vatican? Why is this holy man in charge of my country thousands of miles away? You know, you had all the different issues across Europe at the time, and then you have basically the Church of England is created, and this, as you say, means that we lost protection as this little island of the Vatican. So then we lost sort of certain taxes coming to for all we had to pay a tax towards. We would then get certain grants to help run the churches and everything else. And this then created a very difficult period in history. And yes, part of that offset was cannabis, which at the time in Old English, hemp, but will have been what we now know as cannabis. It won't have been under 0.2%. It wouldn't be any of that shit. It'll have been the plant expressing itself. But the cannabis at the time will have been called hemp in the common language. You know, this is 100 years before the unification of the word cannabis from Cannabisi and the Germanic and the sort of Mediterranean roots of the word of cannabis. You know, that comes through Greek, etc. So that hemp was then this valuable resource because it was an incredibly important food source, you know what I mean, being a complete protein, being really great mixing, what do they call it, gruel. So real base food source that could keep people going, you know, animal feed as well, incredible animal feed, highly productive, great yields as well, because it wouldn't have been the hemp of today, because it had more THC, it'll have been a healthier, stronger plant, bigger, much larger, more biomass, more to work with, more beneficial return in terms of the flowers and the oils.
All of that soil would have been unharmed by all of the crap we put into it now, so it would have been so rich.
Exactly that. And like I said, then having these larger cannabis plants that will have been probably more average around 1% THC will have also created an incredible diversity within the local ecology. You then look at the cannabis plant, the studies that came out of Colorado, and they found, I think it was 23 different subspecies of bees that benefit from cannabis as an agricultural crop, because it's a late source of pollen in the season. Do you know what I mean? So it allows the colonies to last longer, which allows the longevity through the seasons. And then, you look at it all the way down to the depths of the roots. So then what actually that does is it creates a huge benefit to the microbiome. And then you have then all of these worms, you have everything down to the bacterial balance in that. Everything is breaking everything down, and the roots are like highways exchanging the information between the upper world and the lower world, and they're pumping down all of this goodness into the ground. And yeah, so the earth will have been richer, the people will have been fucking better off with it. But like I said, it was the trading of the crop that was what made it invaluable. So cannabis as an international trade was fucking huge, because it was all the sales, all the rigs, you know, it was used for oils and lacquers. It was used in burning in lamps, and also it was hundreds, thousands of uses. So it was a really important crop. So basically Henry VIII stated that if you had over, I can't pull the numbers out of my head, but I'm just going to use it, say arbitrarily, like 4 acres. I think it was something like was it a quarter of an acre per, over this arbitrary limit, I think a quarter of an acre per X amount had to be for the cultivation of cannabis. And then as part of that offset is you could pay your tax, which obviously everyone had to pay tax, especially at this point when the king was taking back control of the lands via the church. Then you could pay it with weed. Yeah, you could offset because it was then.
That's the future, isn't it? So we have to go back to the future.
Yeah, it was stated in the same way that we had for a period in the 18th century, 19th century. Quite recently, basically, there was a period where it was mandated we had to have a stock of a year's worth of tea. This country was never allowed to have less than a year's worth of tea. And basically, under the same thing was Henry VIII's concept, but it was the same. You had to have one bad year worth of product, which is pretty smart. If you're a grower at home, you know that as well. If you have one, you always want to not be relying on that next crop, because if you have a bad season, bad growing cycle, you know what I mean? It could fuck you up. But yeah,
I'm having a full school day here. We've had chemistry and science, and now we moved on to history. We're getting on to a little bit of biology as well there.
I just wish I knew more about this stuff. I'm the same as you sort of expressed.
So I'm literally just sat here like, I've been all morning listening to you talking already, but I get to do it in real life and ask my own questions. I'm always talking to you, but you don't answer back normally. So
I really rarely answer. I'm not just in people's watching talking to me.
I mean, when I'm listening to the podcast, I'm like, yes, that's a good point. Blah 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 blah.
No. I was going to say. Yeah, I was going to joke there and say you probably got more chance of me responding on the telly than me on messages some days, because
you've already answered the question. I get so into it, like especially when then I haven't listened to them before. I'll listen to it over. I end up standing there from yes, for fuck's sake! I'm getting like really angry and wound up. Especially when I first heard you and James, yours and James episode. But yeah, I'm like full on standing up, like pacing in my living room, like those fuckers.
Yeah, honestly, so some days I put my headphones down from this and I'm walking into a quiet house by myself and like, just literally just so wound up.
Here's a calm down juice.
Yeah, although as I noted with the Melanie Sykes episode, what I typically do in that moment is think, I'll go have a coffee. And I get hyper as shit and I go, I need to calm down. I'll have another coffee. Get caught in that caffeine cycle.
I'm like, why am I shaking? I'm like, oh yeah, I should stop that and just have some more CBD.
It's all about that balance.
Totally.
But yeah, honestly, I don't know half the shit that I know until my brain comes to say it. Do you know what I mean? I often have the expression is like, I don't know what I think until I've heard myself say it. And that's part of what this podcast is I've learned a lot, I read a lot, and I take in a lot of information, but as soon as it's in there, it's gone.
You're having the conversation. Yeah. Like I've been using cannabis for 12, 13 years, something like that now. Yeah, 13 years, maybe 14 years. Since I was 19, I'm 33 now, 32 now. So yeah, that's 13 years. And sometimes I think, I don't really know that much, but then I start having the conversation, I'm talking to people ask me questions, and the conversation, I'm like, oh, fuck, I forgot I knew about that. And it's, it's like stretching a muscle. I'm like, you're exercising it and it comes back to you. And I'm just, some of the stuff sometimes come out of my mouth and I'm like, ooh, look at that. But then, as I said, sometimes, like because of the whole neurodiverse thing, on one day I can do something, on the next day I can't do the same thing. It's really, really annoying.
No,
yeah, sometimes.
I feel you there. Right. Let's actually go through one of the questions. I did actually write a lot of questions, so we've just got to power through with half an hour of all kinds of sidebar there, which is very good. Like I said, it was a very good educational lesson. I do enjoy remembering things, because that's what it feels like to me. It's like I said, the stuff goes in, then it's like I put it on a shelf. It's like I'll get that when I need it. So these conversations are always invaluable to me. And then go, and then I put it. I always
that information and making sure it's still there, and it's dusting it off and putting it back down again, isn't it?
I put it on a different shelf, so then I put it on a higher shelf so I can get to it easier next time.
With all of the other information that you've accumulated with that topic, and they're like, oh fuck, that goes over there.
Yeah, it's interesting because that's actually how they're starting to discover through studies of LSD and neuromapping that they reckon that's what people do. So say if you then think of sitting, your brain will put all sitting things together. So things that you can sit on, things that you have sat on, things that you like to sit on. You know, all kinds of, on. Yeah, but it's such a diverse thing that and you can see it in quite a high-end LSD experience when you get that cognitive confusion. And so you'll go to say a word and a similar word comes out, and you get this kind of they used to call it like a hyper, what do you know, what they used to call it? Hemispheric connection. They used to call it, and now I think it's hyper something, and it's basically like the connectivity of the brain is just so on point at that point. There's so much information going through it that it's linking to all of these other different things. So that's not just one way. You're then thinking of, like, say, sit is then a 3-letter word. Your brain's then going, what's the other 3-letter words? And then as soon as you open that, up,
it's like your brains are like a snowy hill, and you go through these paths, and every time you go on a sledge, you go carving out those paths deeper, isn't it? And then taking psychedelics is like putting a fresh layer of snow on it, so you can go through new paths to get to to make those different connections. Your brain starts to forge newer and stronger pathways. Yeah, it's really interesting. So we really need the regulation and decriminalising or rescheduling, so we can get more research into it, because we're barely dipping our toe, and it's already just like.
This is the thing of it. Psychedelic research is there.
Mm-hmm.
It is there. I've got book upon book. I have met people that started in the 60s and never stopped. They may have been criminalized, but they were pushed underground. These tools have been studied infinitum. There's a reason you've now got multi-international conglomerates investing and putting themselves onto initial offerings and IPOs to then get public money and be on stock exchanges, to then selling proprietary products such as psilocybin and ketamine. You know what I mean? They're now moving into MDMA and DMT. They're not doing this because, we need more. No, they've had the research. They have done it. Look at John Hopkins. Look at the Imperial College in London. Look at these academic institutions that have worked in tandem with governments around the world to criminalize the common man for using it, while creating data sets that they're going to use to sell us back these drugs at an inflated rate. Just look at the $6,000 per treatment infusions for ketamine that are taking place in Bristol and London in this country. Do you know what I mean? Whereas then look at the way they'll look at a ketamine user at a festival. Look at those two different worlds, yet the drug is the same.
Again,
it's no different.
Class thing, isn't it? It's a class war.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Tarquin can afford it. Well done, Tarquin.
Yeah. But this is it. But the thing is, they want that situation to continue, because then it's a maintenance drug. It's not about giving you enough to have the divine, the mysterious, the revelatory experience, for you to have the difficult trip, the bad trip, the experience that sets you off on that next part of your life. You know, people like Steve Jobs, you know, what the hell's the other guy who came into my head? No, he's gone. But basically they attributed within the top 5 experiences of their life, their LSD trips. Bill Gates was the other one. Bear in mind, they've had kids, they've done all these projects, they ran these companies, and all the top 5 experiences, meaningful and life-forming experiences. These sort of clinics and these settings, I fear, don't allow you to have that, or you have that, but in a controlled experience that you're then put into this hyper vulnerable aware state, and then guided through your experience into their outcome, you know, via their dogma, via their belief, via their understanding of what is God, of what is life, of what is nature, what does it mean to be human. Do you know what I mean? Whereas the organic experiences of us having, you know, paganistic rituals, of us taking mushrooms around fires, of, you know, friends tripping together and going into the woods, of people, you know, on beaches and doing whatever. At the same
time, you could say that your friends, if you say, like the first time I'd done psychedelics, I did it with friends who had done it. So would the same things be put on there? Would it be their ideas of how the trip would go? Would it be their ideas of got all of those things that you just said that the medical people are doing?
In a way, yes.
But
there are much
we
better.
have the opportunity to go and do it by ourselves then and get that. Yeah, we do it.
Your first experience should be with others. You should.
Someone to hold your hand.
Somebody you love, someone you trust, and then when you go, there's fucking dragons, or you're tripping the fuck out, you're having a difficult experience, someone can go, it's a drug, you'll be fine. Talk you through it, take you away from the stimulation you're struggling with, make sure you've eaten, make sure you've got something in your stomach, make sure you've liquid, you know, do we need sugar, do we need to... Yeah, exactly. So you need someone that has that experience, whereas these clinicians are not going to have had that experience. They're not going to have had 5 trips and had to have built themselves back up, you know, hugged a toilet for 12 hours to try and get through and falling off of the bathroom floor. You know, they haven't had those. And again, the bad trips don't exist. The bad trips are you dealing with your trauma, or dealing with the unpackaging of the unconscious. You're facing the shadow self, as Jung would speak of. You have to face that shit. There is no coming to enlightenment in a nice, like, oh, this flowery, lovely field of meadows of loveliness. No,
the only thing achieved in the comfort zone is you stay comfortable.
Exactly. And so this is what I mean about them trying to then keep it too safe, too sanitized, too hygienic. I'm in conversation with a couple of people from clinics to try and get a guest on at the minute, quite a big name doctor. But I don't think, because they need approval from the company, and I don't think the company is going to approve it, because they're not going to want them to have that conversation with me publicly. Do you know what I mean? I mean, fuck, they're not letting me have that conversation privately. And again, I'm not meaning to chastise or demonize or lessen anyone that's had one of those experiences. If it has worked for you, then bless you. Good for you. But your right to access that shouldn't be predicated on us being criminalized. If you have the right, we all have the right. In the same way, if you have the right to pay some fucker for a plastic tub of moldy weed, for you to throw that moldy weed away, put some good quality homegrown weed in and walk around and be safe, everybody should have the right to be safe. This bullshit system of, again, it's classist. Even the conceptual idea that some people should have and others shouldn't is by its nature class.
We've all got an endocannabinoid system.
Yeah.
No one's born without one, so we should all be entitled to these bloody plants that do us good.
But they can't even accept that. We can't have consensus from them about the endocannabinoid system, because, again, the admittance of that basically then
it would make it all moot. Well, we've obviously evolved side by side with it then. So if we've got receptors for it, if our body literally has receptors for it, well, there's no reason for it to be illegal and kept from it.
That's then a scary argument for some people, especially even in the cannabis community, because your body also has opioid receptors. You also have the receptors to be able to ingest things like DMT. Do you know what I mean? Drugs.
Well, we make it.
So this is the point, is that then all substances, all of these chemicals, any altered experience, to criminalize it is wrong. It is entirely wrong. Like I last night, for some reason, about 7:30, went, I want to go climb a giant hill in Yorkshire. So I got in the car, I rolled a huge, nice, lovely joint, made a cup of coffee in a flask, drove to Yorkshire, climbed a fucking hill, and watched the sun go down. You're not
in Yorkshire already, then?
No, I'm in Durham, so it was a good 55-minute drive, because the weather was nice. I wanted to just head down. I
really fancy that hill right now.
it was worth it, because as anyone that's seen my Instagram today, I found as I landed on top of the hill, there was a guy cutting a kid's hair. He was doing a promo for his barbershop, and the kid was sat with a cape on and a chair, and this barber was cutting the lad's hair. So I've done a really nice picture on my Instagram. But yeah, again, look, that's odd. That's weird. You know what I mean? Not in a negative way. I don't mean weird as in to be pejorative. No, weird as in unusual, exactly. But how? Yeah, so what's the difference between that guy and his kid going, oh, I want to climb this hill. Oh, son, I need to get these promo shots for this new barber company. And me go, and those two behaviors, what is different? Why is one criminalized, demonized? Why am I a bad person for the cannabis? And why is it that everyone that walked up that hill either said something like, I can smell weedo, or they said something quietly, and then once they saw that I was smoking a joint, they never mentioned it again. But everyone that walked up that hill giggled to themselves, went, oh, look, there's a guy cutting hair. And that guy was allowed to interact with them, was allowed to giggle and joke with them. I obviously interacted with anyone that spoke to me, but the people who were just like under the breath, like, oh, it stinks or whatever. Who's the difference? There's hair, human hair blowing around in the air from this kid getting his hair cut and me smoking a joint. I've sat slightly out of the way. But again, even though nobody said anything, the prejudice of the situation because of the law would be that I'm in the wrong. I'm creating pollution or dangerous drug smoke. Yeah, what?
But at the same time, if that hill had a sign that said no alcohol to be drunk here, and you were sat there with a can, they still wouldn't bat an eyelid about it. They wouldn't be like, oh, look, it says no cans. Then usually, they'd probably be like, well, why fucking can't he have a can there? I was going to say smoke a can there. Why can't he have a beer there? Like,
that's making me.
I'm going to enjoy my beer in this nature. Oh, fuck you! I'm going to enjoy my weed in nature too.
So that just made me.
You don't like the smell. Well, some people are really smelly, and you've got to sit downwind of them, and we've got to put up with that. Some weed smells like BO, so you can smell my herbs.
But preference of something in a public space, something created by somebody. Your mum will say, "You don't point to strangers. You don't say things like that." Or a decent parent will at least try and teach a kid that you can be curious of an oddity or something that is unusual, but there is an etiquette and a way to approach that. If you see somebody with a maladaptive facial feature or a deformity or an amputation, there are ethical and decent ways to approach that you can interact with that human. Don't otherize them and go, no, not the thing, but don't also equally point at the thing and go, the fucking thing. There's a spectrum in between, and that is decency. That's respect. That's what I believe that I was taught, that we all share the commons open space. That if you want to come, and respectfully have a couple of tinnies, if you're then going to take your rubbish and fuck off after, fine. But then I would expect you to keep under a certain decibel level. In the same way, if I was there, I would my people to do the same. My friends, we share that space, and there should be that common respect to it. And I think that the war on drugs means that it creates this concept of those that are allowed and authorized and that are fine. And so this is how you end up with things like, look at Ascot. This year's fucking Ascot and the day at the races for the ladies. The pictures from that look like a fucking war zone. Women in like the metal blankets, those foil blankets and shit. Because of how hot it was and how much alcohol they drink and the sheer volume of cocaine that culture is now consuming. But then the papers, all of it were jokey headlines. But they had these pictures of literally looked like a war zone, and they were hyper-normalizing it.
The binge drinking, and so when I used to watch the New Year, my parents have it on at breakfast time, and I remember seeing it like almost sensationalized, the Britain's binge drinking. It's embarrassing.
It's a point of pride. It's a point of pride, though. That's how we rank ourselves hierarchically in our culture. How much blow can you do? How many people have you slept with? How much can you lift? How much do you make? How many cars do you have? Do you know what I mean? It's all bullshit metrics. The only thing that we should be measuring ourselves against is who the fuck you were yesterday. Literally become conscious of yourself, your own behavior, and then go, what do you like? What don't you like? Do more of the things you like, less of the things you don't like, and adjust daily. It's as simple as that. And you'll find that, in a week, you might not have liked what you liked last week. In a year, you might be an entirely different person. Mm-hmm. That's normal. That is the fluctuative experience of humanity.
Natural evolution.
Exactly that. Yeah, it's in the same way look at our most beautiful of plant. From that tiniest of seed, she grows, and then there's few little sprouts. And you're like, what is this? No discernible features. And then from that, boom, come out that first set of leaves, and the third, and the nodes, and she just powers up. And that's you. You are growing to that point, and if you do it right, you will flower and you will flourish, and one day you will be cropped, and the people around you will get to enjoy the fruits of your labor, whether that be the money that you've left, the resources that you've left, the things you've left your kids, your family, the work you have committed to the world, the charity that you have done. That's the point of it, is it not? We're here to give something, not to take it. Yes, the plant, again, she needs nutrients, she needs water, she needs light, she needs love. She needs a little bit of a breeze to strengthen those stems. Do you know what I mean? She needs a bit of a defoliation, a bit of bending, a bit of trimming, a bit of work and love.
But in will spoil.
And we're the same. And we're the same. So it's exactly that. And I believe that if you tend to the roots, if you look after the plant that is you, that your bounty will benefit everybody. That whoever you are, whatever it is that you are meant to be, that is what is most beneficial for us. And I cannot tell you what that is. You probably cannot tell you what that is. You have to go and find that, discover that. You have to fuck up 1,000 times to stand up 1,001 to walk forward and figure out who you are. It's a difficult, dangerous process, but fuck, none of us are going to figure it out once. Nobody just rolls the dice and wins straight off the game. This game is not designed that way. Anybody that tells you is lying. Anyone that says they're self-made and they've created this, no, they haven't. No man is an island. Some may be peninsulas, but no man is an island. And I mean that as in human. We still haven't touched a single question of I've wanted to ask it. This is what happens with because I don't know about, obviously you've got neurodivergent. That's exactly what I'm going through at the minute. I've got
you can have a little button as well as your little button for your allegedly. You need to, so when you can do these things, you can just go, come on, can I be the voice for it actually? Can you record it? ADHD. Every time you're like, sorry gang, beep, 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 beep. Let's get back on subject.
This is why these podcasts, some of them end up so fucking long. It's like, I want to ask one question. I've got 2 hours. All I need to do is two hours, one question.
Yeah, it's the wander from one thing to the next.
It's good though, but it makes it much more organic though, because again, like, as we said before, I don't know what these conversations are going to consist of. I do a bit of research on my guests. Obviously, I write down some questions and I have a few things that I want to bring up with them. But generally, it's a conversation that I would want to be having anyway. And sharing it in an intimate way with then this ever-growing audience, and then building with that kind of a base of knowledge between us all. Because, I mean, if you look back at the first episodes, the stuff I've said then, it's factually incorrect now. Times have changed, and I constantly try to reconnect and bring on previous guests and try to always make sure the information is up to date as possible. Because it's that information, that knowledge is power, you know, that we can really form and shape our own culture with this. So actually, I suppose we'll miss some of the earlier questions I was going to ask here and just jump straight into UK events, because obviously I think between us we've covered quite a hell of a lot of different style events across the country over the years. And yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts on kind of what you like, what you don't like, what you like to see more of, that kind of thing.
Well, the first ever one I got to go to, I think, was High Life in 2019. And I was like dipping my toes into this. I hadn't discovered this whole world. I've joined Instagram and found the whole cannabis scene on there. I was like, holy shit, there's people doing these things, these events and whatever. It was awesome. And I got to go to the hemp and CBD expo. So I got to see, and in the same year, so I got to see almost like both sides of the coin, you know, the black market. Oh,
I'm still here.
Oh, the black market, you know, the underground scene, and what they're doing, and I got to see the legal scene as well at the same time, and it was mind-boggling. I thought it was, I don't know how to, yeah, it blew my mind. I've said it so many times, like during this podcast, but yeah, you could see there's so much room for the two to meet, and we're sort of starting to see that now, but we need. I think you touched on it before. We need more educational, a bit more education brought to these and a bit more awareness. And as I think you said, that these events used to be more protest events before. I didn't get to experience that. And unfortunately, I seem to miss all of the blooming protest events. Or I went to one in 2020 that was supposed to happen in Cardiff, but me and my partner and one other person were the only people for this event with our little signs, and we still did it.
Nice.
We went and got some nice food and went home. So we still had a good day out. But I think, was it Product Earth last year was the best experience for me. It was like the mothership calling me home. And to see all of that out in the open and to be talking about it and to not feel like a critic. You know, when the high vis people walking around with the dog handlers, you weren't like, oh my god. It was they were trying to keep us safe, not people safe from us. And it was like, holy shit. There was a point where on the Sunday I was like, oh my God, are they going to be waiting for us when we leave? Is this a trap?
Ultimate setup, yeah.
Is this a trap? They know, and they're going to try, like, yeah. And I had that panic moment. And I stuffed everything inside my little buddy here. That there still needs to be more of the Project Earth meets the black, the underground scene. We need a bit more education. Like you're now, you and CBD James with his testing are turning up at the events, and we need CBD James there with his Delta 9 analytics testing. We need more people like him, making sure that this stuff that is being sold is safe for human consumption. That's what I'd really like to see happen when it comes to all this, because I was nearly hospitalized last year because of some really bad CBD product, but it's flower and hash. So that's on the legal or the grey area, legal area of it all. That was the tea, the CBD tea. And I was nearly hospitalized. I had a blocked salivary gland. Like I'm actually shaking right now talking about it. I don't know if you get this when you stop talking. Like, so I had a blocked salivary gland, and I ended up looking like Jabba the Hutt. And at one point, I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I knew something was wrong. And I looked in the mirror, and I opened my mouth, and the little flappy things underneath your tongue. Yeah. They were sticking out my mouth, and I thought that was my tongue, but my tongue was like it was. Oh my God! So we need, and thanks to CBD James, I would like. I've listened to that man to if he tells me to be careful of something, I'll be careful of something. We need more of him. We need him sponsored. We need more of people like him doing that testing. We need yourself there educating. And I think all of this, especially while we're still illegal, there is still illegal cannabis and legal cannabis. We need, all that bullshit. We need more education at these black market events. We need, black underground events. I don't want to say because it sounds really naughty, like knives are on the table and stuff, but it's not.
Legacy is the kind of not accepted, but the most used colloquial term in sort of Canada, America, and sort of coming out of Australia and basically anywhere that's got an advanced market, modern market, then yeah, they say some of them are starting to catch up this thing as well with lawful and illegal, in that cannabis isn't illegal. Cannabis is it's unlawful.
Unlawful misuse of it. Then so all of these events that are doing that, we need the education. We need more CBD there, which you are starting to see, like Smoke on the Water. There was CBD brands there. I was there. I'm an artist. I had my stall there, but I don't think you had artists and stuff like that and CBD brands turning up. There was a CBD brand next to me, and even though I don't think he had a very good day sales wise, he still had a lot of conversations with people, and that's what we really need, is people having these conversations. And unfortunately, I think there was the company that was next to your stall. He said that he was taking, I'm not going to name brands. He's taken away the cannabis leaf out of his logo because he's working with schools. He wants to separate himself from the drug. And that I know we need the hemp and the CBD to be cannabis. We need it all to be under the one umbrella, because we can't be demonizing one side to promote another. It's just going to put us back in the dark. We're going to stay here with our legacy market. We're going to stay here being naughty if we're not bringing it all into the light. We keep some of this in the grey. It all needs to come with us all together. We can't be separating the two right now. We need more education, more awareness. Yeah.
No, I agree. And I think you stated before that obviously, unfortunately, you didn't quite get to go to the ones we used to build them as protestables, based off the legacy of Vivian McPeak out in Seattle.
Delicious.
Ran a hemp fest, and basically it's a composite word, basically, of protest and festival. And so its festival is, you know what a festival is. It's a celebration, it's a vibe, it's a whole like carnival atmosphere of things, showcasing a certain subgroup or topic or thing. In this instance, being sort of cannabis, and the protest obviously being then showing.
My love, can you move somewhere else, please? I'm getting distracted. So the ADHD brain's getting sucked into his conversation out there.
That's all right. And so, yeah, so the protest is then, yes, you are bringing these people en masse and they are committing a civil disobedience by consuming cannabis, but you're also then in some way allowing cannabis to be traded. You're allowing a showcase of what post-prohibition the world could look like. And so I very much took a lot of inspiration from that from Vivian when we put on the Durham City Cannabis Club events. So we took over a public bit of land. It was always, the point of it was to be public. That's the protest element. Everyone can be arrested at any moment. The point is that if you get 100 of you there, they will not touch you. If there's 4 of you and you're acting like dicks, they will destroy you. But strength and unity, you present with maturity, you articulate your demands, you present.
Public consent, isn't it? They are public servants. They're supposed to be working in our best interest. So if 100 of us want to come here and behave and have a nice time together, civil, in a civil way, then we should be allowed to.
And this is what then created the postcode lottery. Is this then started 2017 was when we put on our first event, and then obviously there were other events going off around prior in the years prior, but that sort of 2017 and 2018 there were a hell of a lot of events, and the majority of them were on public land. The point of it was find a public space, get everyone together, and people traveled. We traveled from all over the country. I mean, I went to events nearly 400 fucking miles away. You know what I mean? We went down to like Plymouth and Exeter and that. And so it was always about supporting each other, that everybody turned up everywhere. And yes, the police turned up, a few of us, quite often myself and Trev and others would go deal with the police, and we'd have the conversation. And 99.999% of the time, the police would be like, well, leave by the time you leave, we'll come back later and check on you. And they don't really care. The point is that you have each other's back and you're not looking like you're doing something dodgy. Whereas my issue with a lot of the new events, it's this kind of, if you know, no face, no case, gang attitude. And yes, that part of culture exists within cannabis. And I understand that. And I will fight for that. I will literally go to prison to protect you, your right to do that. But that is only an aspect of the industry, in the same way that the grannies wanting to get high, or them just want to get well, and wellness over here, and your agricultural here, and your supplement, everybody, we're all a part of this giant thing called the cannabis culture. And not one of us should be prefaced over the others. Everybody should be given the same opportunity to move forward, that where one gains an inch, the others go, here's exactly how we did it. And we had that mentality for many years, but then something happened. Different organizations were formulated, some organizations fell apart, and then these events ceased. I mean, in Durham, for example, we had a big issue with the cops. They turned up with some dogs and threatened to basically raid the event. This then led to obviously conversations with myself and our former chief constable, which resulted in basically some of the best advice I've been given from a police officer in my life, of just a reiteration of the understanding of how language works and what public means and what private means. Do you know what I mean? And
okay.
So basically, public, the police have a duty of care and a necessity to act. So if they're given a call, somebody in this public space is doing X, Y, Z, have to get down there. Oh God, no, knocked it over. Have to get down there, have to deal with that, have to resolve that situation. Whereas then a situation in private, it just doesn't have to be prefaced in the same way. It can then be put on a lower priority. It can be passed on to somebody that then when they arrive at the private space, they then can't enter that space because it's private. Whereas if you're then at a pub causing a disruption and the landlord rings the cops don't have to knock on the door and go, can we come in? It didn't walk in, it's public. Whereas if it's your house and your mate's pissed and you're having a bit of a problem and you ring the cops, you can then still refuse the cops entry to the house. Obviously, I'm not going to, if you want to ring the police, that's your own business. It's, I think, I've made my opinions quite well known, so I'm not going to further state them here. But if you feel the need to, if you are forced life or death situation, if you had to, in that, you still can refuse them entry when they arrive, or whoever is at that property. There is other ways that make it difficult. They would have to seek permission from the landowner, from the either a tenant or the owner of the property or the space, whatever it is. And if they cannot then get that, they then need a warrant to enter that space. To do that, they then have to go and get it away, get it signed by a magistrate. They have to get a desk sergeant to verify it and run through a whole system of accountability. For cannabis, they will basically not do that. unless it's evidence led. So we were able to get away with some quite big private events that I very publicly advertised, obviously with a big giant A3 poster campaign that we did across the Northeast and Yorkshire. But it was just enough of skating that language that they accepted the arguments, they accepted what we were saying. And whereas I think nowadays the events have become a bit too underground almost for their own good. And there is a certain, I have a certain perception, we'll frame it this way. I feel I perceive the scene right now to have a couple of oppositional forces within it. There are people that seem to be deliberately trying to sabotage each other's events, whether that is ring fencing vendors and saying that, you know, you vend at our events, you're not allowed to vend at their events. You know, people basically finding out when somebody is putting on an event and then themselves putting on an event that weekend. This is the opposite of the ethos of what we had prior to COVID. We would have a coordination. We would have the higher admin pages and a few other different social media spaces where people that were involved in organizing these groups and these events could coordinate and go, oh, is yours the 3rd? Oh shit, right, we'll make ours the 10th then next weekend.
Yeah.
And everybody coordinated. So then some weekends there were 2 or 3 events a weekend with the peak of this, because everybody worked together, because we understood that it's not a small pie. It's not, there shouldn't be this jealous mindset. Yes, be envious in some ways, because envy is a driving force. Envy is something that makes you want to be better.
Well, there's like a balance, isn't there?
Yes. So then a healthy envy is a good thing. But then if that is manifesting as jealousy and a bitterness where you feel the need to sabotage somebody else because you feel they're a threat to what you're doing, you're wasting your energy. Put your energy into what you're doing, not into what others are doing. Basically, yeah, but keep your head up and be aware there are other lanes. And we're not running in this thing in a fucking sprint. It's a marathon. And in the same way you see those cliched images of those guys helping. I saw one recently. If there was I think it was a German and a Kenyan on a marathon race, and basically the Kenyan guy, through a translation error, had stopped in the wrong place, and the German guy could have won the race. And basically the guy, he stopped and he's pushing the fucking Kenyan guy, and the Kenyan like, what? And he pushed him over the line so he would win. Do you know what I mean? And that's where we should be. You should be pushing your fucking over the line.
Didn't they ask him, like, why didn't you
win?
And he said something. Didn't he say something along the lines of, well, what's that?
It's a hollow victory. It's a hollow victory. And how can I live with myself? How could I look at myself?
I think something like to his son. Yeah, it's not a real. It wasn't a real. He would have won the race. It was just.
And the reporter kept asking him. I think it's 2 or 3 times the reporter asked him, and the guy in the end, I think he walked away from him because he didn't get. He was like, no, but you could have won. He's like, but no, that's not a win. I wouldn't have won fairly off my own back, my own efforts. And I think that speaks massively to our culture right now. People would rather win for the Instagram picture.
It makes it worth playing, because if you're all going to be assholes to each other, like, why are you doing it?
The race isn't life. Remember this, folks. The race isn't life. It's a tiny aspect of it. And when that fucking starting gun goes and you take off, when it's over and you take your shoes off and you hit the fucking showers, you've got to live with these people. These are your neighbors. These are your friends. These are your allies, your countrymen. These are other humans. We've really got to address these mentalities of, it's this weaponized neoliberalistic capitalist idea. Do you know what I mean? Whereas then
hustle culture.
Exactly. Yeah, what are you hustling for? And again, when you've made your money and you've made your bank, you need friends to share that life with. You're going to want people around you. You're going to want a network. So if you screwed everybody over to make that bank, I mean, look at what happened with crypto. The sheer volume, 1.something trillion, is just evaporated. Do you know what I mean? And look at the kind of people that have lost that.
Into the wild, and it's shared. Happiness means nothing unless it's shared, or is it words to that effect?
I put the book of that somewhere. I've never read it. So a lot of people pestered me.
I didn't know it was a book, and it was introduced to me as a movie, and it was one of those life-changing moments for me, or life-changing movies. I definitely, it definitely helped push me along the journey that I'm on.
Anything that humbles you, I think, is good. And again, humility. It's the Instagram, Snapchat is not designed for humility, and it's terrible, because that is such an important quality but rounding you out as a human. You can have bravado, you can have ego, you can have this kind of, over-identification with the material realm and your station in life and this perceived hierarchy. But ultimately you're still just a shitting talking monkey. You're nothing special. I'm nothing special.
At some point, your battery's going to die. So, and it means nothing. It's nothing.
Yeah, the impact. So when you die, people will remember you positively or negatively, and you can't really determine what they will think of you. All you can determine is how you act in that world and how you make them feel. You know, I can't remember who the quote of it was saying that, yeah, people will long forget anything you've said to them, you know, the sound of your voice, your name, but they will do, if you've done it right, they will always remember how they made you feel. You know what I mean? That feeling, you'll remember a feeling. You won't be able to quantify it with language, but when you think of that person, something in you resonates, something lights up, you hold a part of their presence, a part of their experience with you. And we are all shaped. I think it's Chuck Palahniuk, the guy who wrote Fight Club, actually. He said that there is nothing original about me. There is nothing new. Everything I am is made from others. And I think that is so true, that and you see the cliched image of, you know, the kid, and it's made up of the holes taken out of the parents. Do you know what I mean?
No, I don't think I've seen that.
That's weird. Sorry, I've just got a thing saying temporary unmuted come up on my screen, yet neither of us have been muted.
Oh.
Thank you, Zoom. Basically, it's just a meme, and it shows like two parents, and they're solid outlines, but they have holes missing out of them. And then the child is made of the holes connected together. So it's basically saying that the pieces of the parents make the child. And that's one part of it, yes, but it's thousands, tens of thousands of relationships. It's relationships with people you'll never meet. Some of the most
the two different plants are never going to be the same. Even if they are the same seed, it's never going to be the same, because there's always the environmental factors. Everything's going to change, and it's all an individual, personal journey. Exactly. The exact same experiences can happen to exact same people from exact same backgrounds, but they can just go whoop.
And that's like back to cannabis again. We're just walking, talking cannabis, baby. Yeah. That's all we are. We're just out here just moving through, because again, I don't understand the drive of humanity, but I can understand the drive of cannabis. Do you know what I mean? The idea of proliferation through marriage and kids to me is abhorrent. It's not offensive, but it's quite it's not for me. It's not my life. If anybody else wants to do that, bless you. You do that. We need more people to keep being people. I get that, but I'm not in it for making new people. But then when I think of like plants and the nature and the inclinations and the drive of nature, that makes sense to me. Procreate, repeat, find better environments and maximize, and then explore the genetic variability and expressions. But then when I think of humans that way, then I can kind of understand it and go, actually, yeah, we're looking for these peak cultivars in humans. And I don't mean that in terms of epigenetics or eugenics. I don't mean that. Don't mischaracterize me here. What I mean is that within humanity, and the same within cannabis, there arises a Girl Scout cookie, an OG Kush. Do you know what I mean? That there are these, in cannabis terms, the cultivars, but in people, there are these humans like, I don't know, Martin Luther King, there though. There we go. Don't know what's happening there. Yeah, these individuals that through their actions will affect basically everybody on the planet. Do you know what I mean? And it's not saying they're better or worse than anybody else. They just seem to have more of an impact on the direction of humanity. And I think the same is then true of, like I said, cultivars of cannabis. So I kind of can forgive humanity if I think about it like weed. We'll put it that way. Do you know what I mean? But then when I think of little children running around in nappies and screaming in car seats, and that's overwhelming to me in a lot of ways. You know, my sister's got 4 kids. She's carrying on our bloodline. Yeah, we're fine. We're good. You know, that blood's going. It's going to keep going.
My cousin had the baby, so I'm fine.
It all works itself out in the end. Interesting. So I suppose art, we haven't really discussed art. One of the things I do want to ask was, obviously it's very impactful, cannabis, on your art. That's quite evident. But I was just quite curious as to how you found, especially with the evolution of sort of getting diagnoses and understanding your own mental health, like how your neurodivergency has affected or impacted the creation of your artwork.
Well, that's about. but I am that. You are the neurodiverse, and neurodiverse is you. You can't separate the two. Where do you start? And that begins. It's so I've always been artistic. It's always how I've expressed myself. So I don't think it affects it, because it is it, you know.
Well, and meaning then, so you were saying before about some days you can, some days you can't with different sort of things. So
that's with everything. That's like, you know, so perfect example is this one time in school it was PE, and we were doing netball because that's what the girls did. And I no joke, every time I aimed at that hoop, it fucking went in. I got 36-1 that game that we were playing against. I was like, what the fuck? So obviously they put me as like goal shoot. But for the next match, do you think I got one thing in? No, we failed miserably. Like, there's this paint pencil sketch. I'm looking at it right now. It's this tree woman with all these branches, and it's like, I do say so myself. It's really fucking good. But I didn't do it. My hands did it. Someone else did it. I wasn't aware I was even doing it. I just pulled a piece of paper towards me, watching TV, and was just doing it, and just started making these like sweeping. I don't know what I was doing. It wasn't me. And then the next day I was like, fuck, I gotta do some more of this, do a series. I couldn't draw a normal tree, let alone a tree woman. It came out horrendously, and I can't do it. Like, this week I've been writing. I have felt the mood to write, because sometimes I'm just like, and it's like, la la la, ooh la 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 la. And then some days like today, it comes out as la la la, ooh la la la. I can't, so some days, like big chunks, I'll be able to pick up a camera, and I'm doing photography work, and I can think about all of these beautiful photo shoots, and I can do them, and I can make them. And then other times I'm picking up a paintbrush. Right now I'm on a painting mission, and I can't stop painting. But then like tomorrow it might just go again, and tomorrow I might not be able to paint again, and I can't do that. But I might be lino printing, and I can do some really good lino prints. And then suddenly one day I'll be like trying to do it, and it's just not happening. But I'll be on the camera again. You know, it's just, I can't control it. It's just what my body, my hand, my head wants to do on that day.
I sympathize with that quite heavily, actually, because I found that if I can lean into it, I work in quite a quantum way. So I start multiple jobs, and again, it's just instinctive. So I then just move, and I'm fluctuating, and it just looks like a car crash, but everything comes together.
I'm literally doing the same project. I set the thing up in a triangle. I'm going, and I'm over here, and then I'm over there, and I can't like, and then it'll like filter down to one main one, and then I'll flit about, and but I think that's the neurodiverse. We can't stay in one. We're flitting about. And that's the ADHD. It's not an attention deficit. It's inconsistent attention.
I think for me it's a boredom state, because of the mass amount of trauma that I suffered as a young, and basically I don't allow my brain. It's one of the reasons I think I consume so much cannabis, and I'm quite partial to most of the drugs, really, is I don't like a large section of my brain. So anything I can do to occupy it, pretty happy with, you know what I mean? So if it's just going off in whatever tandems, forever just remulling over all of the information that I'm forever filling it with, or directly hyperfixating and focusing into something in such a way that means that I forget that I'm a human. I have to eat. There's a life. There's breath. It's like stuff, and then it's almost then disappointing to remember the rest of humanity. And so when I can work in those moments of just hyperfixation, so anything so when I'm writing, same. I can't if I try and think to type on a keyboard, my hands go stupid. But as soon as I'm going like I want to do, thousands of words can come out sometimes, and it's just like, what the fuck? And then other days I'll have a deadline and be like, oh, I've got 12 hours to get in just 200 words on the rest of this article. And I'll do everything. I will literally clean out the inside of the oven. I'll take out like the cupboards. I'll do everything in the world except that thing. Or I'll try and get everything done. So then I'll go, right, now you've got nothing left in the world to do, but the easy job you should have done first.
Eat the frog. You're going to eat the frog. Yeah, that's me all over, dude. It's freaking annoying.
I think it's again, cannabis comes in wonderfully to it for me, because as long as I've got, or when I've got access to the right spectrum of cultivars, it's literally my brain will start to go out and feel something and go, right, if I need a blue terp, I need some blue that'll slow me down, reduce the anxiety a bit. All right, I need some THC. I need to really just bring the world in a minute. Do you know what I mean? I want some
of the ones I've noticed. I'm like, oh, okay, I can work really well on that. Oh, that I shouldn't touch. Oh, that one does that. So I can sit there and just, hyper focus.
Do it, because this is something I've been doing. I've been advising a few others to do privately. Is because then once you've done that, you can then basically go through that list and just work out your primary and secondary terps. And then from that, you start to build a terp profile, because again, the cultivars are not necessarily irrelevant. That's not what I mean, but in this conversation, potentially they are. It's the unique combination of the cannabinoid, the synergy of the cannabinoids and the terpenes. So there has to be that organic synergy of them growing together in the same terpenoid. Whereas if we then create these broad spectrum products and put in, even cannabis derived terpenes, CBD, THC back together,
it doesn't
there's still something in science. I don't know, obviously that's been a lot of academics. They don't understand it.
Again, you can sit on it and it'll wobble, or you can still sit on it, but it's not doing quite the right job. It's
but they haven't calculated the mechanism for this. There's still not full consensus for this for the entourage effect, because again, they can't.
Interesting though, isn't it?
It's interesting to watch, but it's scary.
That it doesn't work, but then how before we knew about terpenes and things like that, how we were like, oh, if I eat a mango and smoke weed, I'm going to get more stoned. Where did that come from? We
knew about terpenes. We've known about terpenes before cannabinoids. So we've been studying terpenes for a long time through foods, through hops and alcohol and everything else. Terpenes are obviously ubiquitous throughout nature. It's just that we obviously have had our main introduction to them as a cannabis community because we like flavors. We like the variety. We like to, see the nuances and the differences in the way that the plant expresses itself. It's, I don't know, I find that most cannabis consumers that have a real passion for it are like kids in a candy store. Or they're just because they're aware there's thousands of different little varieties of flavors and tastes and experiences, and they just want to get out there and have the right to explore this, but also then the consistency to know that the information they're correlating is correct. Because if you're just buying from your dealer, goes, oh, that's Moby Dick, oh, that's that, oh, that's that, you're then getting wrong information. I mean, look at the amount of people at the minute that are still talking about sativa and indica. I mean, the clinics are prescribing sativa indica. It is like Francis Hall was on last week actually, and I think me and him articulated it quite well. And we basically said that you cannot say that this sativa or this plant grown as a sativa because of its taxonomy, in other words, the way it expresses itself genetically and grows, is going to give you any indication of how it would affect you. Even if I mapped the profile of it and told you that profile, I can't tell you how it will affect you. Whereas you doing your due diligence and you understanding that those terpenes affect you this way, you as an informed consumer can go into that shop and go, I'm looking for this profile.
Yeah.
Whereas at the minute, they're selling products still at the highest THC. Oh, this is 33, I'll buy that. And one of the reasons they're doing this, folks, if you're not aware, look at what the fuck Grow Farmer and others are doing. They're now creating a spectrum in this country, which means that the higher THC you're buying in your product, the more expensive that product is. It doesn't mean that product took more to produce. They're just creating a value chain based on the volume of it.
That's so silly.
Isn't it fucking just?
So because you can smoke a high THC strain and not feel that high, but then you can smoke a low THC strain with this sort of terpene profile and you're on your ass. It's completely down to the terpene profile with the cannabinoid and your own personal body chemistry.
But that's what they're trying to do, is price people out of that THC market, which then makes me think there's maybe something to this high THC. It's like, yeah, because, all right, if it's not giving you the same sort of effects in other ways, large amounts of THC, we know through organic conversion, you are going to fucking be supplementing every part of your endocannabinoid system. THC is the better of the current branch cannabinoids that we have in terms of the efficacy of in functioning in the system. Then when you actually include CBD cultivar, CBD cultivated into these cultivars, you then get the THC lasting for longer. It sits on the receptor for longer. It bonds with it better. Do you know what I mean? So this trying to understand the science of what they're trying to produce here is it a better products of medicine, or are they trying to fucking hide something? Because we obviously know the cancer conversation. It's people with FECO. It's really high concentrations of predominantly THC in these oils. And that is what is having the apoptosis effect on cancer cells, and is having such a reversal of people's prognosis, their diagnoses, you know?
Yeah.
So it's part of me thinking, yeah, they'll give us these spectrum of products. I mean, the other third part of this, I suppose, is combustion versus vaporization. So obviously you've seen in the past 2 weeks, there's a big conversation going off between Sapphire and Grow Pharma, because Grow Pharma have brought in a line of non-irradiated floral products that were tested for marketability by Sapphire. And they basically stated that they don't feel that it meets the criteria for a vaporization inhalation product.
Was it full of mold or something?
That's basically, that is the interpretation from the statement that is made by Sapphire. Yeah, is that it contains too high of levels of potential molds for vaporization, and that is because if you vape something, folks, if you're not aware of this, you are having a higher susceptibility to mold spores, a higher susceptibility to anything that is a foreign body within that plant. Combustion, yes, will destroy more of the cannabinoids, but will also destroy the vast majority of any foreign entity or object or body within that. Yes, you're inhaling carbon, but guess what THC does, folks? It's a bronchial dilator. It also helps protect the lining of the lungs. It also has anti-cancerous properties. So for all these companies that are invested in vaporization, telling you, well, the combustion of any plant matter is going to be bad for you, and then points towards tobacco studies, are fucking con men. Honestly, look at the correlation of the studies around the world for the past 40 years that show that cannabis does not cause lung cancer, does not cause COPD. Look at it, and we also
lower rates. In fact, wasn't there, in lung cancer in cannabis? Yeah.
So yeah, when you take tobacco out for control, then yeah, it's so exactly. There's more to this narrative. Remember, these are the same idiots that were selling you Tamiflu during the swine flu. These are the same idiots that censored for YouTube, because I'm going to get in fucking trouble, but you know exactly what I mean in there. They're the same cunts that are now going to try and make a fortune out of monkeypox. Do you know what I mean? It's they're con men. I'm sorry. Yes, things exist. People die and bad stuff happens. I'm not meaning to belittle or to demean or to reduce the suffering, the loss of anybody. Death is death, and it is a sad thing anytime it happens. But it is also an inevitability in life. And again, not to belittle anybody or anything that's gone through it, but the reaction of the system to the past couple of years versus the danger, and then the benefit that they have reaped versus the consequence that have been felt, that have befallen the populace. It's not about health, it's about wealth. So when these guys are now cornering cannabis and telling you that you need to vaporize it for this, that you need to get these irradiated products, that you need to get this, that you need to get that, it's not about your fucking health, people. It's about their wealth. Look at this Advent EBM. But also, when you that's moldy as well.
You've got to buy a device to do that. And again, you're going to have to, how do I do that then? I can't just, how much is a pack of papers? And you get cardboard for free because you can rip it off anything. There's packaging everywhere.
Exactly that.
You don't need money to be able to vaporize it, to be able to combust.
It's interesting though, that you say that, because the law versus what the doctors say are two very different things. And so far, of the 15,000 people plus in this country that have been prescribed, no one has tested this law yet, and I'm waiting for somebody to do it. So let's see what happens here, folks. Basically, scenario, you're walking down the street with your vaporizer, your Pax type herbal vaporizer. The battery dies. Oh no, you don't have a means to charge this on you. You need to medicate. What happens if you roll a pure joint and you combust it? What does the law state? Because as far as the doctors state, they say in big fucking capital letters, we recommend vaporization. Do you know what doctors also recommend? Fucking exercise for obese people. But do obese people get criminalized if they don't join a gym? No, because the recommendation is up to you to make the decision on. A doctor makes a recommendation. It's illegal. It is against the fucking protocols in the Geneva Convention for a government and a country to force a medical procedure and intervention on a population. We've got the Second World War and the fucking intervention of the fucking Nazis to thank for that wonderful piece of legislation that has protected humanity for the better part of a century that they were trying to tear apart during, obviously, the mandatory vaccination period. So I'm trying hard with this episode to not get this caught up in their algorithm. But yes, so it just, I have distrust. Call me paranoid, whatever, guys. But like, I have distrust in these people ruling this system. Like I said, words cast spells and create our reality. And recommendation is such an ambiguous word. I have no idea how that will work in terms of a legalese context in a court of law. And that's what we need to understand, because if a judge rules that a doctor makes a recommendation, it is then for the patient to make the final decision on. Because again, the same comes down to driving. So now you're 15,000 people that have got a prescription. You can be as high as giraffe balls when you're driving, no problem, because you can then get swabbed. You've got a medical defense because you've got THC in your system because of a prescription. So then it wouldn't even go to a blood test. But even if it did, you could have infinitum off the record. You could have like 7,000 parts per million per liter in your blood. Obviously, you think they're probably dead at that point. I'm not sure how the math works there. But the point is, you can have, and it's irrelevant. You will never then have your license revoked from you. You would if you then say the magic word, I was impaired, I was tired, I was sleepy. You have the autonomy and the authority to determine in that situation. So the same thing surely could be extrapolated to this conversation about combustion, that, yeah, my doctor says they recommend I vape it. And I go, thank you for your recommendation, doctor. I'll take that on board. I am not going to do that, but thank you.
Mm-hmm.
In the same way that, say, look at your diazepam, something like that. There isn't a recommended way of taking it. They don't recommend taking it as a pill. They say you have to take it as a pill, but you still could. I'm not saying anybody should, but you could smash that diazepam and sniff it. A lot of people fucking do. It's quite a so-called recreational drug out in the illicit market, you know? But that would nullify that prescription because you have the confines of how to consume that substance. Do you know what I mean? Whereas that language does not yet exist with cannabis. So okay. I'm very curious to understand whether their recommendation, you can go, thanks for the recommendation, doc.
Yeah.
Cheers. Because if so, then we should all fucking get prescriptions, because again, you're not paying for their weed. It's moldy, it's shit. We've seen it time and time again. I'm not even going to have to put about allegedly there. Go to Reddit, go to the medical the r/medical forums.
Recall. You can see the recalls.
Exactly that. It's a public record, so I'm not even worried about a clinic having an issue there. But yeah, basically all you get is you get your little tub, and you get your magic piece of papers on the tub that says, oh, you might go to your man, get the weed you like, the stuff you know is safe, the stuff you enjoy, put it in your little tub, and then be able to then, with that narrative of going, roll it up your pure, and go, officer, what's happening here? Well, this says it recommends vaporization. Yeah, I choose not to. It doesn't say it has to be vapor. It says it recommends. So again, this language, we have to understand and unpack this language in the same way we're talking about the nuance of legal versus lawful. In the way, same way that we talk, I have this bee in my bonnet that medical cannabis doesn't exist, that it's prescription or medicinal use of. In the same way, I have this bee in my bonnet about hemp and all these other things. It's the language is important, and until we either address it today, or in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, but eventually we have to have these conversations, people. Yeah. So mad respect, actually. I'm not going to name the person, but respect to one of the hemp campaigners, the hemp cannabis, as I'm going to state, who's now saying the words hemp cannabis. Basically, they're trying very hard when they're working in their field to say hemp cannabis. That is the concession. That is the middle ground. I am happy to get off my high horse if you'll say hemp cannabis, because then it's not a lie. You're not creating this false narrative. So hyphenated idea, it'd be hemp with one of those little hyphens, cannabis, because then it's not quite a compound word or a proper noun, but it is still a connected word. Do you know what I mean? So if we can use that, hemp cannabis, I'm happy with that. But again, yeah, like I said, it's language. This language is so vital, and it's the victories that I think that we can get. That as long as you're smart enough, like I said, you get. let me rephrase this for any court of law that I may be seeing this video back for. If you happen to have a prescription in this country, it only can be, you can only be prosecuted following an accident or being stopped by the police if you self-disclose that you are tired, sleepy, or impaired. If you do not state that you are any of those things, the police officer, nor a court of law, nor a healthcare professional can tell you or determine you to be impaired. Yeah, I think that's right enough. Okay. Hello, Simpa, if I'm seeing you in a court of law listening to this because somebody's decided to try and use this against me. There's thousands of hours of these things. I'm always just trying to make sure, but all I'm saying is I'm not saying say this. I cannot tell you to say something. So do understand what I'm trying to say here, folks. But in a certain circumstance, if in that hypothetical scenario and situation, you have to disclose that you are impaired. They cannot tell you you are impaired. Just a bit of advice there. Oh shit. Can I pause this a second? There's someone at my door.
Yeah.
Wait, sorry about that. Yeah, done. And back in the room. So I suppose we have discussed a bit of this, discussed some of this. I suppose let's talk about the whale side of it then. How are you finding things down there at the minute? Because obviously I'm not going to name any names, but I've seen some kind of community members have obviously had some issues with police down in the valleys. Is that your experience at the minute, or is it a bit chill?
I'm not in the valleys. So Wales isn't all valleys.
From up here, it looks like it.
I'm way out west. I don't want to jinx anything, so I haven't had an experience here with police yet. There's not many. Oh, we had police come to the door about our dog, unfortunately, but he's legal, so he's fine. In Cardiff, I have had been arrested for cannabis cultivation, but they didn't come because of that. Unfortunately, some yobs broke into our flat and destroyed the place. We were in the process of moving in, and luckily we weren't there when it happened. We were on our way with the last lot of stuff when it happened, but our new neighbours phoned the police, as you would, and the police came and saw what was in the house. So when we turned up, you were the residents of the property. So we have experienced that. But again, I think I'm not sure. When I was in Bridgend before, I think they've got other things to worry about in cities and in towns and stuff. Really, I think that my partner, one of the arresting officers, actually said to him, like, it's silly that you're even here. It's stupid. But from what I've been told by a friend who lives further west, he says that that they've got less to do. They work. They're a bit more harder on cannabis the further away you go from cities. But maybe I think that is out the way with it anyway. The further more rural you are, the less. I don't know. I haven't had any experiences with it, and then since because we've only moved here last year, we know one person who's local, and they're just their own quiet recreational user, and we know a couple of people. So I couldn't really speak to that, what the police are like here, in this part of Wales. I've lived in different parts of England, but again, I've done, touch wood, I've been until last year when last year to September to 2020. Until then, I hadn't had any. I hadn't even really been stopped. Maybe it's because I've only in the past 4 years I've shaved my head, and otherwise I look quite girly and like a good girl. So I think because of that, it's and profiling, I've never been stopped and searched. Touch word again. I don't want to jinx anything, but now I'm walking around in a big Real cannabis hoodie. But yeah, otherwise, like touch word, that was my only experience with it, was being arrested then for that. And because I said I didn't want a lawyer or anything. I just told them it was nothing to do. It was nothing to do with my partner. They were all mine, and I'm doing it because I've got trigeminal neuralgia. I'm ADHD. If it wasn't for cannabis, I'd be dead so many times over. And I basically said I'm not going to stop being a cannabis user or supporter, and etc. And they got the pictures of the plants in the kitchen, and they said, "Can you tell me what these are?" So they're on the table. And I'm going, "You look at her. She's so beautiful. You can't even know she's a leaf. You can't tell me she's not a beautiful plant, and you're on the wrong side of history." And got on my soapbox and did all of that shit. And, but there was a charity working out of the police station called Pathways, I believe, or Gateways, or something like that. And statistics show that women can commit crimes for different reasons. So according to the statistics, I guess males are more likely to be growing it for commercial use, this is what I'm guessing the stats show them, which helped my case, and that women are more likely to be medicinal or whatever. So because of this charity step, there's nothing on the record. I was released, so I had to put on the conditions that I would have sessions with this charity. And basically she phoned me one time. She phoned me to start the process off, and I told her again, I've trigeminal neuralgia, so I'm not growing it, but I'm going to still take it. I'm still going to use it because it was supposed to be some sort of counselling to get me off the drugs or some, I'm guessing something like that. But because I was like, my name's Buddy, and it's because my nut dog's called Dank. There's really I would be dead so many times over if it wasn't for this plant. So I'm not going to stop it. And you're going to So she's like, okay, fair enough. Good luck to you, babe. Bye. And so supposedly it's not on my record. Whether they have got it on my record or not, or that's what they've just told me, I'm not sure.
It'll show up on an advanced background check, which is something that often Jones brought up when we had him on the podcast, actually from down your ends, because it's basically it's one of the checkpoint diversion schemes. So it was Durham were the first to obviously push this mechanism forward, and it was basically an out-of-court alternative solution to somebody being arrested and basically being prosecutable for a crime. So rather than that
black mark on their record, and then the consequences of that black mark, I'm guessing.
Yeah, you don't have a frontline criminal conviction, as it were. So it wouldn't show up on a CRB check, but then an advanced background check will show this up. But then it'll be a decision made on it. Obviously, the fact that it's still in some way considered a conviction, obviously secondary, as it were. Hopefully when the UK moves towards more sensible drug policies, expungement will be part of this package, and eventually it will be removed. I mean, to my mind, we should treat, if we're going to treat them at all currently, drug convictions should be like driving offences. It's on your record for 4 years, viewable for 5.
That's really, I like that. I mean? Especially as you know, well, I know I'm definitely not the same person I was 5 years ago. I know whether you might have been,
there were certain offences. I think obviously that's a lifetime thing that you should be carried with it. Do you know what I mean? I think
that's really great. That would be great if they could do that.
It just rational. It just again, it would give people an actual opportunity for reform. We're not as bad as America. Shout out to my US listeners. Y'all know what the situation is there. You get caught. Not necessarily nowadays, but if you were caught up in the system, say 15 years ago, for a small personal possession charge, life got fucked for you. You're still denied an ability to vote. You're still denied, a decent housing. You can be denied social security benefits. You can be denied employment opportunities. Like I said, anything and everything. There's still all of these mass restrictions in place. But the point of prison, the idea is predicated on reform. We take these dangerous people, we put them in this building, and they come out lovely citizens. Whereas what they've actually done is they've created a cesspool full of life career criminals that they've put in there to then bully, abuse, manipulate, coerce, destroy, murder, rape.
How to create bigger crimes.
Yeah, it's an incessant system, man. It's fucking insane. Whereas you look at someone like Norway's system, for all it's a bit like, whoa. I mean, they've got a 10-year prison max. You know, wasn't it fucking, was it Anders Breivik up in Norway, and he shot like 87, something like that. I don't know why 87 pops out to me. It was a very large number of sort of, there were Labour Party youth members. I'm sure he only got a small amount, but like obviously because they don't have the death penalty. Let's pull this out of my head. He killed 69 participants of a workers' youth league in the mass shooting. He was given 21. He was sentenced to the maximum civilian criminal penalty in Norway, which is 21 years in prison.
Wow. So
again, even that, like the fact they put 21 years is a maximum thing. That again, if you really think about what 21 years is, you know, I'm 34 this year. I can't remember that far back. That's a child. You know, I mean, I've been 7 or 8 different unique people that have pursued different ideals, goals, employment status, your relationship status, living different, you know, it's so I think even, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's quite a difficult moral sort of argument there, but I do think that the point of it is predicated on reform, that if it's done right, yes, the punishment has to be there, but it has to be teamed with rehabilitation, with the understanding that eventually you either build the system like this person is never going to step out of that room, they die in that cage, or you build it that no one ever stays in the cage. Both have their benefits, I suppose, to society, and both have the consequences to society. But I suppose it's about the morals of the culture, and I suppose Scandinavian countries seem to kick the shit out of us in terms of education, driving, you know, financing, many other things. So maybe we should defer to them on this one. That's going to be quite a controversial thought. Get at me in the comments below, folks. You said earlier as well, actually, with obviously neurodivergency, with the sort of health conditions, have you thought of pursuing? Have you had any inclination or drive towards the prescription system?
I'm a poor person, so I can afford my cannabis. Is it like, yeah, it's so it's hand to mouth at the moment. Sometimes it's, especially with all the price increases, art is a luxury. It seems like people either, so my main shop's quiet, but my customs list is very good. So it seems like if you either have money or you don't have money at the moment. So people can afford to either get commissions or they can't afford to get something, you know, some artwork at the moment. So yeah, I can't afford to pay the consultation fees and then pay a prescription on top just to get some crap weed, especially as I'm finding it really difficult. Like at the moment, we've started on a living soil organics journey in the garden, and realize it, you know, and that started the whole thought process of, if you're going to put it on your plants, why would you put it in your body, or why wouldn't you put it in your body if you're not going to put it in your plants, and all of that. And we're starting to remove chemicals from our lifestyle and trying to make these changes and stuff. So I've always been I'm hypersensitive because of neurodiversity. I'm hypersensitive to pharmaceuticals and to chemicals and stuff like that, and I had allergies when I was younger. So I'm becoming more I'm becoming more informed, and I'm learning more. And I think after 13 years of smoking, I feel like I have got a good, obviously there's still lots of room for improvement, there's always is, but I feel like I do have a good eyeball and a good sense for it. I can have a look at it and be like, I don't think I want to put that, I can't get on, like just sanitary, to like, I'm so sensitive to the point of just using a normal sanitary pad that's sold on the shelves at any of those normal brands. I end up with a rash it was just for 5 minutes because of the crap that's in it. So I can't really be smoking. This stuff is medicine for me. I need the medicine. I don't need to get home, have a good time. I'm doing that anyway with it. It's part, you know, it's all wellness part and parcel. I know. If it's bad, if it's dead, if it's moldy, if it's not grown properly, it's not medicine. So I don't want it if it's rubbish. We need quality medicine. So we need James. We need CBD James testing. We need people like him. We need less bottle. We need less organic bottle stuff, and we need more living soil organics, what we were talking about earlier, nurturing that soil biology, nurturing the soil and the planet to then produce the most nutritious, delicious and medical of produce that we can, not just with our cannabis, with our fruit and vegetables as well. So I would not go to it. I'm not considering a prescription at this. Sorry, go back to your original question. I'm not considering a prescription at this time, because if I can't, I know I'm not going to get medicine. I'm straight. So yeah.
No, but you are. That's the thing. That's the thing. Back to language.
I'm not getting medicinal.
No, not even that. You can't produce medicine. Remember what's happened. Look at what we've just seen for CBD for 5 years. Why does CBD exist as a food supplement? Why does novel food exist? Because you can't regulate cell medicines. Only the MHRA can. The pharmaceutical side of things, yes, they're producing medicines. Look at the cannabis medicines that actually exist. That's Sativex and that's Epidiolex. That is it. There's Dronabinol as well, and that's about it, right? But then the term of medicine has to be produced under these strict conditions to their guidelines. So actually, the shit weed you're being prescribed is medicine according to the letter of the language. The unlawful product that we're providing ourselves, that has medicinal value.
I said medicine in that little rant, in that little segment, that I was meaning like all of it, like plants.
Fruit, I get you. I'm just drawing attention to the.
Socrates said, "Whether thy food be thy medicine be thy food." So
that was Hippocrates.
Is it? Oh, sorry.
It was Hippocrates, because that's where you get the Hippocratic Oath from medicine.
Right then.
Greek philosophy is very fucking hard, of which begets which of Plato and Socrates and Aristotle anyway, where was I going? The medicine side of it, was just to actually argue the semantic, that because they're stating that only they can produce medicine again. But the joke is here, go back to you understanding your nomenclature here, folks. So all of you people out there that are running around saying medical cannabis, you're saying cannabis without realizing you're saying cannabis. And let me tell you how. So medical cannabis is created as two words that are capitalized, right? So then they are defined in a dictionary somewhere. They're defined under a term, right? So in English, medical cannabis, two capital letters, is defined as a CBPM, a cannabis-based, CBPM, a cannabis-based product designed for cannabis-based medicinal product designed for human consumption. When you look at the Misuse of Drugs Regulation 2001 Act, in that it states under the glossary what a CBPM is. The first line says, is/and/or a cannabis-based product designed for human consumption. So medicinal cannabis is cannabis. So therefore cannabis is medicine. So if we can figure out that loophole of language shit they're basically, that's the law. Then you're saying that I can only use cannabis as medicine. Cannabis is medicine because your dictionaries define it as such. Again, all of this sounds nuanced, and there are people that have a go at me and just say that I'm muddying waters and whatever else. And it's kingdoms rise and fall on language.
Fight the system. You've got to use what they put in place against them, and if that's using language correctly.
So again, if we can then fall back to that thing of then if they're stating that a CBPM is medical cannabis and I've been prescribed medical cannabis, ergo I've been prescribed cannabis, I can put whatever I want in that. Again, we need to test these in courts of law. We need to push these legal systems and understand this. But I guarantee there is enough fallibility, gray area, and loopholes created within the juxtaposition of the legislations to get all of their friends through, all of their people through, so they're all protected and safe. So the well-to-do
the secret handshakes and the cheat codes as well.
Exactly that. There's another one that's interesting. If you look at Proceeds of Crime Act, there's a language mechanism within that basically states that it's unlawful to profit from the illicit sale of a substance. But if you created, say, for example, a community interest company or a non-profit organization, and none of the product generated profit, you're not triggering the Proceeds of Crime Act theoretically, because you're not generating a profit. The product may be unlawful, but again, language, very important. There's a lot of things to look at in terms of how we build our glossary of terms, our dictionary as a culture, so that the hemp cannabis, as we're going to call them, farmer in the field, the CBD extractor, the illicit vendor, the home grower, everyone, when they say a word, it's a standard word that everybody knows. That's focus one. Once we've got that, then we understand how that language can be used and we can win back. That it would go, okay, the doctor recommends this. All right, yeah, fair one. He also recommends that product, but I've been prescribed the thing. If that then nullifies the law, get everybody one prescription. Fuck the tubs. Do you know what I mean? It's about, I mean, this is what the next wave of activism, I think, is. It's a hybridization. There is no longer going to be just an adult consumption movement or just a medicinal consumption movement, because they are the same fucking plan. The legislation is falling apart.
It's all wellness. It's all for health.
Well, yeah, exactly that. Whether it then be also a conscious decision to harm your health. I can make conscious decisions for my health that are negative every day. I can go and eat whatever crap I want. I can go and drink whatever alcohol I want. I can not sleep for 5 days. I can make whatever decisions I want that have seriously destructive and negative consequences for me, my loved ones, the people around me. And no one can fucking arrest me for it. If I then get dangerous to a point where I'm threatening my own life or another, yes, I could be sectioned. But that is a long way. There's a huge spectrum of space of expression that you're allowed. And that's all I want for fucking drugs. That's all I want for drugs, is that you want to spend a month fucking yourself up with heroin, go fucking do it. If you feel that's what you need to tolerate this pain, to deal with this loss, to deal with this trauma, to get you through, fuck yeah. But if you then start stealing from somebody, then we're going to have an issue. So the way you do that is you regulate supplies, you create mechanisms of access, you then create access to therapy and to help people when they want to be helped. Stabilize the people by meeting them where they are, then provide them the services to get them to where you want them to be. But never get them there by the point of a gun barrel. Never tease them or threaten them by removing their finances and, oh, we'll take your benefit away, make them homeless because you're not going to let them keep their dog or whatever. It's a pernicious system. And again, to loop back through all of this, those are the same people currently in charge of our systems. So yeah, somebody out there, please figure out what the fuck is happening with recommendation. Next time you speak to your doctor at a clinic, ask them what the hell they mean. What do you mean recommend? And then talk about these scenarios. I say to them, theoretically, doctor, what would happen if my vaporizer died and I happened to combust it? And then, I also found out when I did that, the combustion works better for me. Am I allowed to do that? This is what we need to know so that we can start to explore these avenues, because at the minute they're lining their pockets. There are big boys with big plans that are getting very rich off this right now, while our community members, our friends, our kin are facing prison. It's an absurdity, and we have to challenge that together. That's yeah. Told you. Just looking at my notes here, I think I'm aware that we've gone on for about 2 hours now, but I think we've probably, again, as these podcasts go, it's probably a measure of it being a good fucking show when I've only asked a couple of the questions off the page, to be fair. But yeah, I suppose it just means we'll have to get you back on in future. I will see yourself, I guess, this weekend. Anybody? This podcast will be out, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm my hours. Ready to start painting.
Nice. So it is For the Love this weekend, put on by Bud before. If you do not know, folks, do check it out. You can find them on Instagram. I'll be there with the stall. So will Buddy Mary with all this wonderful art that she's working on right now. I just want to thank you for jumping in the hot seat. As I said,
thank you for having me.
Fingers crossed we'll pull this guest back out for next week. And yeah, I've really enjoyed this conversation. Didn't go in the directions I guess I would have thought it would, but they never do. And that's, again, an indicator of it being a good fucking conversation. So
it's Sunday, it's Sunday afternoon. It's nice to have a ramble.
It's lazy. Yeah, very much. I don't know if you see, my rebranding says the new episode every week. This is literally going to get out with a moment's notice of it being this week. But I do actually want to announce then, folks, since you've been nice, I did actually make a note on the bottom of here of who next week's guest is. So I'll tell you, it is the legend, the man, the myth. It is Steve D'Angelo. It is a man I've been trying to get on the podcast.
Oh my God!
What Stevie will be on next week. So next Friday,
I'll be
sitting down with him. So next Friday evening or next Saturday, that should be released. And then I'm going to try and get back to recording and releasing earlier in the week. It's been a bit manic, obviously, settling in at the new space, new studio. I will figure out where I'm going to put all this lovely concrete back here, and we'll have some nicer lighting. And yeah, it'd be lovely.
I just sent you some artwork, dude, so you can get that up in the studio.
Do. It's what I wanted these little pockets for. Was like, I've got, actually, here's another plug for you. There you go, that'll be appreciated. Camping in the Clouds. And obviously, we've got some of these as well.
Yes, I was playing the other night.
Nice. So yeah, I just want all the little things like that are the community based that remind me. Same like filling the poster spaces and stuff like that. And
we're in the top trumps.
Yeah, I'm buzzing with that.
We're pretty good cards, dude.
Huh?
We're pretty good cards. We've both got
actually, yeah. I'm happy with that. Thank you, James.
I've still got room for improvements. I'm like, yes.
That's exactly that. Yeah, so we're going to work on it for the next year and go back to him and go, how well then, James? I want this goes up. All right, it has been a pleasure, Chick. I will include links to your store and to your multitude of Instagrams, because I never know which one you're on, 2 or 3 or whichever these days. But yeah, thank you so much for jumping in the hot seat. It really has. It really has. All right, folks, do a little bit of housekeeping. As always, if you've enjoyed this little podcast, please check us out on patreon.com/Simpa Life, where for less than a cup of coffee a week, or far more than several cups of coffee a week, you can help me literally keep the lights on, pay the bills around here, and keep helping me up our game to keep getting these guests bigger and better and onto a bigger future. But otherwise, check us out on all social media platforms at Simpa Life. I have been Simpa. Our guest has been Buddy Mary, and you've been wonderful, folks. Peace and love.